Gamecatto says meta is the savior of VR. Yeah, I said it, mate. Now don't start a war. Quest ain't dead, it's just changing gears. While YouTube screams doom for clicks and tears. Gamecatto says meta is the savior of VR. Put the pitchforks down, I've heard it before. It's not the end, it's the upgrade patch. So grab your headset, legend, let's dispatch.
Well, hello there, wonderful people. It's Gamecatto here, back again. And today, we're having a rant. Alright, I wasn't even going to make a video about this because honestly, I'm tired, I'm old, I've got the back of a 90-year-old coal miner, and I just want to play VR games and eat. But apparently, I have to address this latest VR apocalypse headline. Meta is dead! Quest is dead! VR is over! They're pulling the plug! Mate, some of you are acting like Zuckerberg personally walked into your house, unplugged your headset, slapped your dog in the face and set your Wi-Fi router on fire. Just relax. Now look, I'm not saying that layoffs aren't horrible. They are. That's people losing jobs. That's families stressed out. That's real life stuff. That part, that's genuinely awful. And I really hope the devs, they get on and they find work and they make some amazing games for other, and inform other VR companies. I hope that happens. But the internet can't just say, that's awful. No. No, they've got to turn it into some like WWE fucking storyline where VR is dead every 3 weeks because the algorithm gets bored. And I'm sitting here watching it like, do you people even like VR? Or do you just like talking about VR dying? Because at this point, some of you are basically VR undertakers. And you guys know who I'm looking at. And there's a lot of you. So look, Meta is dead! But is it though? Really? Here's what I think. This whole meta crisis, this whole death of meta, the death of Quest, all the clickbait thumbnails with the flaming Quest headsets, sitting on tombstones, videos with sad violin music. Well, I kind of disagree. Because what's actually happening is this. Meta spent hundreds of millions, into the billions by now, funding big VR games. And then the market goes, yeah, cool. Anyway, gonna go and play some Gorilla Tag, mate, and maybe a bit of fucking mini golf. And don't get me wrong, like Gorilla Tag is probably fun. I mean, I haven't played it, but it must have some appeal because millions of kids love it. And Walkabout Mini Golf, well, that's absolute legend, top tier game. I adore it. I love it. But here's the problem. Meta's trying to run VR like it's the PlayStation 2 era. Like, we'll fund these massive AAA games and they'll sell like 20 million copies. Except VR doesn't even work like that yet. So Meta funds this big shiny thing and it sells like what? A couple of million, if that. And then everyone acts shocked, like, wait, the $1 billion game didn't sell to like 200 million people? Well, no, because that many people don't have headsets yet, and because it just hasn't been adopted that way, and not that many people are playing Batman, mate, even on the Quest, with the amount they've sold. What, they've sold a couple of million copies out of all the people on Quest that could buy it? So, they're playing Monkey Simulator, and golf, and rhythm games, and shooty pew 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 games, which is fine. I mean, that's the VR audience right now. So when Meta is pouring insane money into stuff that isn't selling like flat games, what happens? Exactly what's happening now. Layoffs, studio shutdowns, headlines, panic, and that is what makes VR look bad. Not the actual situation, the perception. Because the moment a company lays off thousands, the whole internet goes, VR failed, VR's dead, VR's a gimmick, oh god, VR was a fad. And then every casual person who was almost going to buy a headset goes, I'll just buy a Switch 2. Quest people, I feel for you, I do. But welcome to the PSVR 2 experience. Now look, I feel bad for Quest players because if I owned a Quest and I saw Meta pulling back the rug, I'd be like, oh my god, they just pulled back the rug. Okay, Quest people, I feel for you. But welcome to the PSVR 2 experience, honestly. Now I feel bad for Quest players too because if I owned a Quest and I saw Meta pulling back like this, I'd be like, oh, did I just get rug pulled? But listen. Quest players, my beautiful, wonderful, Questian people out there. We've already lived this on PSVR 2. We've had the hype too. We had the launch window where it looked like Sony was about to go full psycho mode. Horizon, Call of the Mountain, Resident Evil, Gran Turismo 7. Oh my god, PSVR 2 is going to be insane! And then Sony basically went, alright, cool. Good luck everyone. See you later. And even Horizon, as pretty as it is, you can't tell me Sony did half-ass parts of that. I mean, they didn't even make the devs use their own tech to make it as clean as it could be. I mean, it could have been running smoother, clearer. It could have had DFR or Duffer, as I call that. And it should have had PSSR, well, PISSA. It should have had that update by now too. But no, it didn't get Duffer. And it hasn't got PISSA. What a pisser. Sony, you silly duffers. I mean, what a letdown. So right from the start, it's like Sony had the golden opportunity to flex, and they kind of just shrugged. And now look at us. Huh? Where's Spider-Man VR? Last of Us VR? God of War? Shadow of the Colossus? The Last Guardian? Where's Motorstorm? Where's my beloved Motorstorm? Oh my god! Motorstorm in VR would be perfect. First person. Gyro steering. Chaos. Dirt flying everywhere. Oh, I fucking love that game. But no, we get silence. So Sony basically left PSVR 2 in the hands of third-party devs. Yeah, some big ones, but mostly indies. And honestly, it's not a bad thing. Because indies are the ones taking risks. I mean, indies are the ones making the weird, experimental, interesting and unique stuff. And when you've got AAA dominating everything, people just don't tend to buy those smaller experiences as much. So ironically, AAA pulling back, it might actually help VR in the end. And the meta is the saviour of VR clickbaity thumbnail. Yeah, it's exactly that. But there is a truth behind it. Meta isn't killing Quest. They're not shutting down a product selling to millions of people, millions of adults and kids, and they've got some first party support still. Sure, Quest is still going strong. Games will still come. We literally just saw Legendary Tales go from PSVR to Quest, with extra content even, and flat to VR. Love you, Miles and Wes. They're bringing RoboQuest VR to Quest. I mean, and all their games, right? So this isn't the death of Quest. This is the death of Meta, pretending VR is ready for billion-dollar AAA spending forever. And honestly, that's probably smart, because VR is still growing, still in its infancy, really, right? I mean, the real future is VR glasses, cloud, and AI. Look, I know that's where people are going to call me insane, but I think Meta is shifting focus because they know where VR is actually going. We're heading into an AI future, right? Borderline dystopian shit. Technology is going to increase rapidly over the next few years. Not slowly over 20 years, we're talking rapidly just over the next few. Because AI is going to be doing work that humans can't, designing systems that humans can't, solving engineering problems faster than a human could, coming up with ideas and technology that we could never have imagined. And eventually, VR isn't going to be a big headset, it's going to be wraparound sunglasses powered by miniature Chinese-developed nuclear batteries that you charge once a week. And that's the point where VR becomes mainstream. Not when you're strapping a toaster to your fucking head. When it's literally, put these sunnies on, you're in VR. That's it. That's when everyone adopts it. And, it'll probably connect to your phone, no console. Your phone just becomes a little base station where you browse your library, buy your games, access your Steam store, access your PlayStation store, manage everything. Put the glasses on and, the game isn't running on your phone. It's not running on a console. It's not running on the glasses. It's running on a data center, cloud streaming, and you're just receiving it. And you'll have hand tracking, of course, because it'll have cameras in the glasses, vision-based gestures. And gaming purists like us will still want controllers, and we'll get them, gloves or some kind of form of controller with force feedback, which they will still have, that they'll still be around. But, you just have to buy them from the Apple store. Small sacrifices, whatever. But, look, but the mainstream version is glasses. And that's where Meta's headed, right? Look, there is a darker part to this, and that's what people don't want to talk about, right? Climate and escaping reality, right? The world isn't getting better. The climate is getting worse. And look, you don't need to be a scientist to see it. You just need eyeballs and keep your eye on the news. Each year it's hotter than the last. More weather disasters in the last 10 than the previous fucking 50. And you have thousands, over 7,000 climate scientists screaming about it, and governments ignoring them, and they're getting frustrated. They're getting pissed off for a reason, right? And I'm in Australia, right? It's already hot. I mean, it's already disgusting, and it's getting worse. So in 10 years, well, you're going to have days where going outside feels like opening a fucking oven door, and what happens when outside becomes unbearable? People stay inside. And what do humans do when they're stuck inside? They want to escape, right? That's right, they want to escape. So VR becomes even more important, not because it's a toy, not because it's a gaming fad, because it becomes an escape hatch. And you'll appreciate games even more like Flight Simulator. Huh? I mean, it's not out yet, but, it comes out, we're going to love it. But imagine in 10 years playing games like that. Because, in reality, there'll be a lot of places you won't be traveling to, you won't be able to. And, with these VR, with your VR sunnies, your VR headset on, you'll be flying over them virtually going, wow. Remember when Earth looked like that? Huh? Hey? Remember when presidents of the free world showed respect and decorum and didn't dance and swear on stage like your drunk fucking mother-in-law at your little brother's wedding? Look, sorry about that, couldn't help that. But the irony is, this is the irony, is that it is those data centers powering AI that will be powering VR that are also wrecking the planet that we'd be trying to escape from. Those data centers, they're chewing through power and water like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Every AI prompt that we do, every search, every time I generate a scary AI slop Gamecatto that Reese from Games with T and cross-button VR finds terrifying, it costs resources. And there's places in the world where water supplies are being hammered right now because of these massive server farms already. It costs resources. And there are places in the world where water supplies right now are being hammered because of these massive server farms. I mean, there's water crises in so many countries right now where they've lost 70% of their lakes, and all to do with server farms being put into these countries so that, I can be Gamecatto. Gulp. So, look, we're basically building the future like, all right, lads, we're destroying the planet, but don't worry, you'll have really good VR. We're cooked, Sushi Ben, we're cooked. But I've got to say, the real shift, it won't be just these meta layoffs. It will eventually be user-made AI-prompted games. That'll be the big thing, right? That's the part that nobody's ready for. The meta layoffs, yeah, they're bad. Yeah, they are. But it's going to look small compared to what's coming. Because in the future, you won't just be buying it. I mean, you'll still buy them, but you yourself will be able to make your own prompted games. You'll literally put your glasses on and you'll say, make me a skiing game with PCVR 2 sense-style haptics, built into the glasses, of course, into the little frames. A rival named Jammy Hero, and, I want physics to feel like SSX, but with guns, machine guns. I want to shoot people down the slopes. Yeah, give it to me. And then minutes later, you're in it. And you'll have the choice between, your own private tailored games, probably, with meta product placement baked in, let's be honest. But, other people's user-uploaded games, creations that they prompted. You'll still get some still big, AAA studio releases, beloved indie games. You'll have all that. But when user-made content explodes in gaming, you won't need as many professional studios, which means the industry is going to have way more layoffs long-term than this current meta situation. This is just the warm-up, right? So what's the conclusion? So no, meta isn't dead. Quest is not dead. VR isn't dead. Meta's just shifting focus because they know the end game, right? Glasses, cloud, AI, mainstream adoption. And the VR form factor we have now, look, I'd be very shocked if it continues like this. I mean, everything trends smaller and lighter, and once it becomes eyewear, that's when VR will be adopted by the mainstream. And when that happens, well, Meta's probably going to be at the top of the ladder, right? Because they dump money early into the tech instead of bankrolling games that no one's profiting from now. So maybe, just maybe, there's a bigger picture here. And maybe, in the end, Meta really does end up being the saviour of VR. Anyway, that's my rant. Leave your comments below. Look, I'm sure you're all going to call me an idiot. Some of you are going to get angry. Some of you will agree. Some of you will threaten to buy a Steam frame out of spite, which I'll be buying anyway, myself. But anyway, either way, like, subscribe, and keep on playing.
So grab your headset, legend, let's dispatch.